hoc meeting of the city council. This is an ad hoc committee meeting for the city council. My name is Joe Cavill, I'm the chairperson of the committee, and on the committee with me is Councilwoman Teicholz and Councilman Perkins, and Mr. Perkins will be here momentarily. He's, I believe, stuck in traffic, so he will be joining us as soon as he gets here. I'm starting now 10 minutes late because we have people here from that are being held up, and I'd like to not keep them any longer than we have to. With us tonight, besides Councilwoman Teicholz and myself, we have Councilman Nagersheth and Councilman Paul Rotello here ex officio. We have Laszlo Pinter, who's our Deputy Corporation Counsel. We have David St. Hilaire, our Finance Director. We have Dan Garrick, our Assistant Finance Director. And we have our consultants, Mr. Bill Baumgartner and Mr. Shane Pritulis. And then we have Linda Stock from our own IT department, and Assistant Manager IT, and our members of the public. And I think what I'm going to do, since David handed us this project charter this evening, I'm going to ask him if he would take us through that, or him, or Mr. Baumgartner, or Mr. Pritulis, if they, whoever wants to jump in. I'll run a little bit of a relaxed meeting. You can just get my attention, and then we'll let David start. And
okay, thank you.
If you're with us, Shane Hilaire, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to start back probably last year when we had the GFOA, it was the Government Finance Officer Association, come in and do an analysis for us in the finance area. And then a couple months later, we had Gladry and Pullen come in. It was an audit firm, do IT audit for us. And as a result of those studies, they came to a very similar conclusion that our systems, and recommendation that our systems are hindering our daily work, not just in the finance department, but citywide. And there's a number of inefficient business processes that are leading to lost opportunity for the city, and potentially, increasing the risk of the city. They noted that many of our systems are, and this is, we know this, the folks that work day to day know this to be a very frustrating fact, that our systems are very siloed, which means they do not interface well together or at all. And that has been an ongoing problem for us. And the other problem that they noted is that the systems that we currently have are not fully utilized due to, either they're on their tail end of the life cycle, or they've never been fully implemented for whatever reason, whether it was previous, costs, restrictions, or current cost restrictions. They just never were fully implemented. So the question came in, well, should we just implement those modules that we're paying for, we have been paying for over 10 years, but not utilizing? Should we do that, or should we do something else? Because clearly, we're doing a lot of things manually that, quite frankly, the system can't handle. Things such as the approval process, things that typically other municipalities do, that have automation on, we do it manually. A lot of paper is generated here at the city, as probably you guys all know that. Some things may take a lot longer than it should because of that process. Other things is tracking overtime. Overtime, is a big problem, as we all know, in the budget. We see it every year creeping up, and we hear the same explanations. The fact of the matter is, we have our very qualified people out in the police, firemen, public works people, all these other people that are dedicating more and more of their time. They're highly trained people dedicating more of their time doing clerical type of functions. We're not giving them the tools to do what they need to do. We're not giving them the ability to be mobile in the field to access the systems. They're forced to write it down in the field, then come back and retype it in the system, and then when they need a report, they have to do that report manually. And then if you need to update the report next month, guess what? You got to do the whole thing over again. And so when a report is requested on a periodic basis, there's never that continuity from one report to the next report to the next report for filing purposes. So it hinders us when we try to apply for grants and all these other things. So there are many problems that we run into from that lack of a centralized data warehouse. And that's the term that's used in the industry. So what we hope to accomplish, or let me back up a second. From those two individual and independent studies, they noted, there's a risk of integrity issues. There's a risk of system, and both of them noted that there's certain systematic risks, but an incredible loss of productivity, especially as attrition is going on. We're asking everybody to do more with less, but we need to give them the tools to do it. And what I'm proposing, generally what I'm proposing in this is to utilize what we have in our budgets right now and to reallocate those resources to implement new systems by having fully implemented or fully integrated, so we can have one system and a bunch of series of subsystems underneath that talk to one another. And we'll have a centralized data warehouse. And that will help improve the communication internally as well as externally for the public. Because ultimately that's who we need to account to, and we need to be able to account for everything that we're doing. So the bottom line is we'll be able to generate better, more current reports, more on-time reports, and department managers will be able to control what they're doing more readily, and they'll be able to make management decisions based upon more real-time data instead of, at the end of the year looking back. They can't really do anything about that, and it's tough to make good, managerial decisions on old history, without having good tools for them to work. So what we're proposing here is really a lot of work has been put into looking at all of these different systems. First, sitting down with the departments and understanding what their needs are. What do they need, and how do they do their businesses? How can they interact, seamlessly with each other? And we recognize that there's no one system that fits all. And ironically, as you start to digest all of these types of systems, and we looked at no less than 39 different systems. And when you look at the tax collection area, when you look at the applicant tracking area, look at the financial area or the public safety area, the ones that there are a few that really just kind of come to the top because of their uniqueness in what they do in Connecticut. I'll give you an example: applicant tracking. Many of these other systems always propose that they can do applicant tracking. Sure, they can for a price. You'll customize the system. You'll pay a great deal for this customization. And anytime there's a change in the new system, you end up having to do a little tweaking for that customization and paying for it. And they'll integrate it into the existing system. However, there's a very good software that does pretty much everything that we need to do, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel. And it's very inexpensive, very affordable, and it's very flexible. So we'll have these different systems that does exactly what we need, and it's flexible enough so if a change is done in that system, we make that change only in that system without impacting or incurring a heavy cost in some of these main core systems. And it's we're going to work within our existing budgets across IT departments. There's some in public works, public safety, and it's pretty interesting and exciting project, because in the end, what we hope to have is a great communication tool for the residents and for us internally too. And most importantly, to allow the residents to pay their bills remotely or pay from a kiosk, to see their tax bills or to buy their, rec pass or pay the parking ticket from home or to schedule their payments outward or to hear the minutes online. All those things are all part of this CRM project. They should be able to have all those tools that make a city their resource. But I will take you through the details of this, not too detailed because I know save time. But I want to just step you forward to the graph here that looks like this, okay? It's 14. These are out of order because I took the pages out of the draft document, the project charter. That's a living document, and it will change once we go through the details of each of them. This gives you an idea of what a constituent relationship management is. The focus will always be on the constituent. But basically, it's showing you that there are a lot of different tools or resources or mediums available. The internet, the kiosk, for self-service. Doesn't mean that you're not going to use the same things that are still available out to you. Coming up to the permit center or the tax collection counter or any of those others will still be available. They always have been and will be. It just means that in today's world, people want convenience, and that's what this is about. That's what correspondence is: face-to-face, telephone. Again, we hope to create a more standard means of that. That's what our call center is about. Right? You call in, they track the calls. Where's the pothole? They delegate that. It's expanding upon that whole concept citywide. CRM system collects all that information. It's a centralized data warehouse so that you can go to one place, a one-stop shop, you grab the information. If you need to create a report, you're grabbing it from there. And the key is coordinating all these different subsystems and ensuring that they're all talking to one another and they're all working together in concert. Now, many of these systems will be hosted in the cloud to allow for the mobility that we're looking for. So when a building inspector goes out in the field, that they'll be able to take their tablet out in the field, do what they have to do, and they'll have real data right there. Instead of writing it down, coming back, and then doing the same work again. Trying to eliminate all that redundancy. That's what we're hoping to do. We're hoping to improve upon the electronic transfer of data, whether it's for the police, fire, public works, or down in permit center, or in the finance department. We hope to pay more vendors electronically, receive the bills electronically. Because if we do, then we can have it checked automatically against what we expect the contract to say. Because all that is just programmed right in the system. This is what the contracts say, these are the terms of the contract. That information can compare against that, we review it, and then we're only looking at the exceptions instead of all the information. We look at just the exceptions. It streamlines the process incredibly. Okay. So we want to look at only those things that are problematic. By allowing this kind of system that's incredibly flexible, we're able to tie into other systems like the Board of Ed. Because this is all about people, process, and technology. Focus is on people. We need to improve the business processes. And that means taking every opportunity to look at how do we improve efficiency? How do we improve the business processes with our business partners like the Board of Ed, like I'm going to say the library because they're kind of their own little world, but we need to look at those things. We've got to eliminate those redundancies. You know, there's too much of that. You know, I think the taxpayers expect more of us. Eliminate the paper. You know, we have reams and reams of paper that we generate every day just to file a copy here in this office, a copy in that office, a copy in that office. And that will help us whenever we have freedom of information requests. I know you, during the budget process, you heard about the pains of having to respond to that. It's an incredible amount of staff time to respond to those requests. So with a system like this, it will help. It takes time to build up that database, but it will help reduce that amount of time. If we move forward to the cost, I just want to walk you through that. Any questions so far?
Mr. Raquel?
Yeah, is this going to be backwards compatible? I mean, you know, we've got 25 years of information we've collected and we access now on a pretty regular basis. If we switch everything over, how are we going to get to that information? Are we going to run
Can
two
you get
systems?
to it now?
Well,
Not really. It is, to answer your question right out, without being sarcastic. It's very difficult to get to it now. And what we've done on the financial side over the past year is we've actually converted the data so that we can use the data, because the data was inconsistently applied over the last number of years. And so we standardized the data so now we can actually analyze it to make better judgments on which vendors we're using, the timing and all this other stuff. Because if you don't have proper protocols, or if the system's not properly implemented with set standards and protocols, then it's like garbage in, garbage out. And we see that throughout the whole city. For example, we have 5 different address databases in the city. You go in the assessor's office, you have one. You got a tax collector's office, you've got one. I think the assessor's got 2. And you go down to permit center, you have one. I think over in the engineering, you've got another. So when it comes down to writing a report, and you need to look at these things, it's very difficult to make sure you've got the right data to run a letter, to send a letter to a group of people concerning an assessment. Did you get all those people? Are you sure you got the right address for those people? We encounter that. We have to double check. It takes a late time to make sure you've got the correct people there. That should be automatic, like that. So as part of our reval process, we made sure that when we selected a vendor for our reval process, that they're going to help work through and consolidate all those addresses, because they're going to be out looking at every property in the city. So we said, look, if we select you, we're going to ask you to verify these data, these addresses. There's some cleansing process that needs to be done. We're aware it's a problem. It's been a problem for years. We need to get one database, and and that's the way we need to be across the city on so many of these things. It'll help streamline and improve efficiency and result in real dollars. Not when you're looking at system to system like this. That's not where the savings is going to be. Savings is going to be, instead of someone taking 3 hours to come up with a report, they'll take 5 minutes at most, because the system will generate like that. So somebody that's getting paid probably $45 an hour can spend their time doing what they should be doing as an engineer, instead of spending $45 an hour to be a clerk. That's where it's an increased productivity for that. That is throughout the entire city, doing stuff like that. So.
Mr. Harrington?
Thank you. Through the chair, I have a question. Are there any other cities in the area that have implemented this system?
This is, now keep in mind, I'm using system as a term of a collection of systems that come together and act as one. How effective they are is unknown. We have an opportunity because our systems are all coming to its end around the same time. And many cities don't have that same opportunity. And I think they replace them at different schedules. So, or they don't look at it, they don't take a holistic approach to it.
So you do a piecemeal.
They do it piecemeal, so they don't have that opportunity to capitalize on each other to gain all the benefits that a CRM system would provide. They'll just look at maybe just this section, and then it's very difficult if you're not taking a holistic approach to get the true benefits and provide it throughout all the rest of the city.
Gotcha. So a quick follow-up then on that. Would these systems, although they'll be working together, they're kind of separate.
Yeah.
Is it something that would be done in phases?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And how long would it be, you think, from start to finish?
18 months. 18 months. Yeah. Some of these take a little bit longer than others. You know, probably some of these smaller systems will take 3 months. Some of the larger systems may take 6 to 9 months.
As far as training, that's all included?
All part of it. Yep.
And as far as servicing,
Yep.
that's all part of that? And again, if I may, the return on investment,
Yeah.
I know you said approximately 7 years?
Yeah. What you'll see is we're going to incur this cost over 5 years no matter what we do, because I just realized I didn't include, we have to replace, if we do nothing, we have to replace our AS400s, and I forgot to include in that. That's about a $350,000 cost.
What are the AS400?
The AS400s is what the HT runs on, what JD Edwards runs on, what Kronos runs on right now. The service, thank you. Those, we have 3 of them right now, and if we were to go out and buy new, we probably would be able to switch it down to 2, so the cost may be a little bit less than that. But then we have to probably hire a person to service that, so we're dealing with another cost there. We could probably contract that out. Either or, we're going to deal with another cost. I didn't use that as a calculation in that, but that's what we looked at.
Sure. That the one there?
That's it, thanks.
Better? Okay. But David, you're saying purchasing requisitions
Right.
no longer have to be hand delivered if there's an emergency, to purchasing, they'll be able to come up via the internet.
Right.
Applying for a job through the city and going through the application process, all be through the city, and some permits and rec fees and
Scheduling
paying
for
your
the police
taxes.
officers, the police officers, the firemen, you know, which is now done manually. You know, and it's very difficult to, it's all done manually, you know, you're dealing with almost a half of the city staff done manually. Now it would be, done with a system that's specifically designed for public safety, called Telestat. Great system. They also work with some other departments, but I don't think it'll be necessary for those other departments. We'll stick with the Kronos. Work very well together. And there's a lot of other things that it's in the mix. Switching from our current email to Google. That way we'll have Google Apps. Google Apps will, that way we're not required to buy Microsoft Office for all the hundreds of users that we have, and we'll just pay the Google Apps, which is a very, if anybody uses it, it's a very dynamic and powerful tool. You have a worksheet, spreadsheet, or Word,
Excel.
Excel.
Yeah, it's a spreadsheet.
I don't want to call it Excel.
Yeah, but it's a,
But,
it's a
Word
spreadsheet.
processor, Excel, or whatever.
PowerPoint.
All those things. And,
Presentation.
I'll use that, but I'll end up getting Microsoft Office because I use all those added features that Microsoft Office is used that Google doesn't have. There may be a few other users in the city that have a need for it, but you know, when you're talking about $300 a pop, right? For a license for that, it gets very expensive when you're talking about a few hundred dollars. So, you know, it's not just that. It allows you to communicate internally differently by having a tool like Google Apps. Now, that's not to say Lotus didn't do it. It just was never set up that way and never implemented that way for the city. Are we going to use that tool? It's not really, doesn't meet our need. Even if we could do it today, it doesn't matter. But those are all the questions that we looked at. We went through all these different vendors and we narrowed them down. We had many discussions with other cities. We had demos with these vendors. We discussed it with the departments. You know, and what I'm asking here is to give me the ability to lease if I need to. It allows me the leverage that I may need with the vendor to say, look, if you're unwilling to spread it out over 5 years, how much would you give me a discount if I can just pay cash now? It's like going to buy a car. You know, you probably get a better deal if you show up with cash. That's the idea behind this. There's a vendor that's not on here, but it's like Soup. They're doing a flyover to update our GIS system. I think they've done it already. They were supposed to do it a week and a half ago, and I think the weather's been nice enough to do it. They were supposed to do it before all the leaves got a tree. But you know, the arrangement was to pay over 3 years, a $300,000 close thereabouts. But we haven't had an update on that since 1997. Lots changed in Danbury since 1997. Now that's used in pretty much, you know, everything we do. You know, from sewer projects, you know, assessment projects, all the construction and all those things that go on in highways, and people come in they want maps, we charge for those things, a lot of things tie in. That will be interfaced with our system as well. You know, so it's all about making sure we're not looking at these systems independently. And our office has, because our current systems could not do what we want to do, our office had to do what many other departments had to do, and buy these little subsystems to try to generate what our current system couldn't do. Like those reports that I generated during the budget process was actually generated through a spreadsheet server, not through J.D. Edwards. It drilled down into J.D. Edwards, but to try to get out of J.D. Edwards, it would take me forever to try to get that in that form. You have to actually be a programmer to do that, and I don't have that skill set. And you want the tools to. You don't want just to be a database. You want it to be a resource, an information system. So, anyways, getting to here. I mean, basically what it shows you here, and as I said, I did omit that purchase of that system. So the payback would be a little bit less, but you're going to incur these costs, if you look at it right, you're going to incur those costs over that period of time, regardless, plus $300,000, plus a staff member, if you've got to hire a staff member, which would be another, you know, $75,000 to $100,000 a year, if you had to do that. Right now, we're one person short down in IT. You know, in addition to the manager, we could probably do without that person. If we have improved systems, and if we don't have to maintain all these subsystems that we have to maintain right now. Our staff has to be trained on everything they do down there, if it's maintained our current system. And if not, they're going to be maintained they're going to be trained at a different level because they don't have to maintain the current system on the servers. Any questions? I feel like I'm talking too much here.
So the one-time cost, you're looking at what you had written in the letter to the council.
About 2.5.
About $2.5 million.
Right. up to that. I mean, I'm gonna work within the budget I have. I'm not gonna, we'll work with the vendors. The hardware bid hasn't even gone out, and I suspect, our estimates will probably come in about that, maybe a little bid less when you bid it out as a group. These other numbers are more, are probably have a little bit of room to go down, but probably not much. We work with them. I think that if we give them the ability to work with them a little bit more as far as negotiating position, I can probably either work more features into it or work the price down. So.
And David, in the other column, in the current state and cost analysis,
Yep.
those figures there in the cost year don't include purchasing a new AS400 system.
Right.
They don't include what you may have to do with JD Edwards.
What I may have to do with staff. No, that includes the not upgrading JD Edwards,
Right.
which, quite frankly, JD Edwards is no longer supported.
Right. So that number,
You know?
that 593,000 could potentially jump.
It could be a lot more than that. So
Right.
this is just our current cost projection based upon what they currently is. So one way or the other, that's a really low price. And I purposely did not even guesstimate what the savings would. I purposely did not guesstimate what the cost avoidance savings, the efficiency savings, the improved productivity benefit savings, all those things would be, because paper savings, the stamp savings, the improved cash flow savings, all that, because it's really subjective. I think you pretty much have a good understanding of what it, that there will be savings there, overtime savings. Because the better tools you have, the more understanding you have of how to manage your overtime. Right this year, police department alone will be at 1.8 million. Fire department will be about 1.2 million or $3 million in overtime. There's a lot of room to manage your time. So if they understand it better, perhaps they can control it a little better. So even if they were able to save 100,000 or two on that because of better information, there you go. And I think there's room there. So, but I didn't want to put that in there because I think you should see numbers and numbers on here. There will be, and don't underestimate the overall city shift from people doing less of their day will be spent on doing clerical type of functions. There will be some shift from the departments to keep people within other departments, but that'll be more of a clerical function within that department. There'll be a streamline of the data, and the managers will have more, the information that they'll be looking at will be more managerial type of information, rather than PO. What's the PO, what's the journal entry, that's a different level of information.
Okay. Mr. Perkins, and then we'll go to Mr. Attell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I see a lot of different vendors. Is there a company or who's representing this whole project? Is there someone here to speak on that?
Yeah, well, Bill Baumgartner, he worked with me on this along with everybody here that you see here. We collectively worked with all the departments and vetted through each one of these vendors that you see here. You can talk to pretty much every vendor that you have a question on and why we would recommend it over any of the other options that are out there.
Mr. Perkins, just so you know, Linda Stock is our assistant IT person for the city. Shane is a consultant working for the city. He's been working in IT with IT department for about 9 months now.
Yeah, well, actually,
Well, he's been here for how many years?
in the city working,
A consultant for a number of years.
yeah, 4 years.
And he's been he's been working for us on a contract for about 9 months.
So that's who there, then Mr. Baumgarten was brought in by Mr. St. Hilaire to sort of put this whole program together and come up with a proposal for CRM.
He's been my point person to try to coordinate with the departments and to meet with every department, discuss their needs, and to work with the vendors and to set up the meetings, and he has a high technical knowledge of managing projects.
What I was going to say is, still trying to get my head around this thing, but typically companies have their own proprietary software.
Yep.
Through the chair.
Yep.
With all of those different vendors, will they use the same software, or are they trying to run their own platforms, integrating them all together?
That would be actually a correct assessment. Some of them are proprietary, as he's mentioned, but there will be a connector or a link between them that the system will be able to talk to. Mr. Saint, and that will make the applications, as an example, for New World and Telestaff in regards of for your time entries in between Chronos. These are time entry systems. Chronos is spread web through the city, and that's a time entry system. Telestaff will be dedicated for the public sector, and there will be no double entry in regards between these two systems. So they will talk directly to the main database.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, typically that stuff looks great on paper, but when you start loading software, you start getting...
Oh, absolutely.
Right. If I may, that's why we made sure that these systems were compatible, not only by what the vendor said. I mean, I agree with you. The vendor's going to tell you anything to get the job. But we followed up with, the references, and we had conversations at the IT level, at the functional level, at the finance director level, to find, is what they're saying, cut the mustard, is a battle. Because it's, I think we've all worked with projects at different levels in the project to understand that they're going to tell you what they want to hear, in these demos. And that's why, quite frankly, we waited to do our needs analysis. Needs analysis was the primary thing for us. It was driven by the needs, not by some vendor coming in with the prettiest colors and the prettiest charts. That doesn't really matter to me. What matters is, is the department going to be, how is the department going to be served, and how well does it fit into the overall picture? And we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. What I mean by that is we didn't want all these unnecessary customizations, because we wanted systems that's going to be highly flexible and fully integrated with everything else that we're doing.
I have a question. Regarding training, will we send our personnel to a location, or is it someone come here and train? How would that work?
It will probably be a little bit of both. It depends on where they're located as far as training, because we have QDS is right in Waterbury.
Most of them will be on site.
Yeah, so that's easy to get to, and sometimes it's better to go off-site for a few of the people, just to get away from distraction for, say a morning. But for many of them, it will be on-site, and it will be hands-on implementation, and they're not just going to be given here are the keys and go ahead and drive. It'll be, here's the unique project, or the unique work process for the city of Danbury. This is how you do this function for the city of Danbury for this software that you're using. This is your guide. So let's say I'm out today and you're my backup, and you don't do it very often because I'm not out very often. So you can come in and do my job by just following through here. Okay, that's the idea behind it.
One follow-up question for the chair. Of that one-time first-year cost,
Yep.
how much of that is attributed to consulting fees?
Well, what we did is we averaged out the consulting fees that we used over the last 5 years or so. It was a blended average. There's probably, in these ERP systems, we put most of that in the IT area, because IT tends to take most of that on the chin, whether it's for the HTE system or the J.D. Edwards system, or any of those other systems will incur in the IT area. So, I don't know offhand, but it's probably, I would say, out of all the systems that we have, maybe about, we have, keep in mind, probably about at least a dozen systems in here, probably about $60,000 to $80,000 on average each year, minimum. That sound about right, Dan?
Yes.
So you're saying of that 2.5 or so million, 80?
No. Of the 593,000
No,
of
I
the
mean-
current cost.
I mean, the proposed first year cost, one-time cost, that two,
Oh, that will be probably about $400,000 spread over 5 years.
so $400,000.
That sound about right? About
Yes.
400,000 over 5 years?
And consulting fees off of that 2.5 million or so,
Right.
consulting fees.
You really can't do it without it. Because we don't have the staff or I don't want to say we don't have the horses in the barn. And it's not something you can easily say, here, we got it, can somebody else do it? Because it's such a customized, unique plan that's been put together. And you're integrating all these different projects together.
Yeah, just to clarify for the record, the $400,000 is spread over, so it's $8,000 a year essentially, 5 years? Is that
On
what
it.
you meant? Or
That's how it's going to be over 5 years, but the bulk of the cost is going to be, during all these implementations of all these different systems that we're recommending.
Okay. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I just want for the record.
So
it's,
technically, the largest amount is gonna be in the first year to start, for the
Yes.
start,
Right.
and then
Yes.
it'll decrease through the years.
Because it's not like it's for one
So it's
system.
a total of about
It's
400,000.
for all
over
these
5
different
years.
systems that we're talking about.
So it's gonna be high in the first year, initial setup time.
Right.
Mr. Perkins, anything
Yeah,
else?
I want to follow up. I'm still in the consulting. So what about after the 5th year? How much of support would we need to receive as far as future consulting needs?
Well, we estimate, and I'm going to say, it's 287 there, about $300,000. Consulting needs, probably not a whole lot of consulting needs. I mean, they're not dealing, that will fluctuate a little bit, but most of these systems are pretty stable systems because they're going to be hosted at whoever we're dealing with, whatever vendor we're dealing with for the most part. Most of these systems will be hosted there,
Then
with the exception of
well, may I say something?
Pernicious. Huh?
Most of the vendors, okay, are we going to pay for
Hosting.
the hosting, but not only that, each vendor also offers support, and it's going to be included in the annual maintenance that we already going to pay. So each vendor is committed also to annual support, and that will minimize the need for a consultant inside
Going forward.
going forward.
Because we were hosting it before, so whenever there was a problem, we had, although we had support services, that only covered a certain piece of it. And because we hosted it, we had to not only have that, had to have consultants to cover it on site, but we had to have somebody knowledgeable for all that software here on site, all those many different softwares that we have, and maintain the hardware as well. So we had to have a consultant for that too.
Thank you.
Mr. Ortel? We'll do him, then we'll go back to you, Dave.
Yeah, thanks. Through the chair to David, I just want to clear one thing up. You've got a chart here, the last page that we've pretty much been talking about, and you've got the current state and cost analysis of, let's call it 3 million.
Right.
But you're saying that it's really going to be more than that because we've got some archaic systems that have to be replaced anyway, and it's probably going to be, who knows, I mean, you mentioned J.D. Edwards is something that's no longer supported, so we're gonna have to do something to
Well, we're
replace
buying
that.
time. We're buying time.
Right, so even if we don't do anything, you're probably assuming a higher cost than this 3 million. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. Now, the final figure, let's call it 3.7, is the all-new system.
Yep.
Neither one of these figures includes any potential savings in man-hours and productivity.
Right.
That's
Right.
correct. Okay, so we're looking really at what do you think with the J.D. Edwards and all that kind of stuff? We know it's going to be north of 3. Do you know how much more?
Well-
And you talk about the A400s, a couple of 100,000, 3.3,
I would say
3.4?
300,000 there.
Okay, so
All right.
3.3.
And if we, and we would have to have a contract on those, and I would say about 60 grand a year, so another 300,000. So there's 600,000. The one thing that I didn't talk about here would, and I should have, is as part of that, IT audit, is we need to have a good backup and disaster recovery plan, which our current systems, we did adjust our backup and disaster recovery, but it's far from adequate. It really is. And we would have to make sure that we address that as we need to. And by housing these, or having these hosted at these sites, it will provide that disaster recovery and that backup that's needed. That those are costs that we would otherwise have to incur.
Okay, so if I may, the costs are actually probably much more similar, apples to apples.
Apples to
Not
apples,
including
yes.
the productivity gains or
Right,
anything like that.
right.
Okay. That's number one. Number two, are we putting this stuff on the cloud, and if we are, what happens if a vendor goes bust? What happens to our data?
Well, it is portable. Now, these vendors.
I mean, are we gonna have some of this data in-house?
Oh, yeah,
We lose a
yeah.
vendor, do we still have the data and the programs to run the data? Because it's not just the
Yeah.
data, it's accessing the data in a
Yeah.
program form that we can understand as human beings, and interface to that.
Yes.
We put it on the cloud, one of these guys is gone, their programs are gone, our data's gone, okay, maybe we've got the bits, but we can't run anything with it because we will have copies and accessibility
Yes.
regardless of what happens ultimately with the vendor.
Yes.
That's important.
Yes.
We know that we want protection with the
Feel
vendor
safe.
on the cloud, but that's a two-way street.
Yep.
We lose our data, we've got theirs. They lose our data, we have ours, correct?
Right. That's all part of the fail-safe for us.
And then finally, if I may, I had a question from the floor about town clerk and legal requirements. Is this going to satisfy, will the town clerk be using these systems?
No, the town clerk chose to stay under HOT system. I think that works best for them. And we didn't want to force that upon the town clerk because I think she has a system that works very well for her. These systems will be adaptable for when there comes a time that she needs to migrate or wants to migrate. So the system that we have right here, they have a town clerk module that will allow to tap.
And it satisfies the Connecticut statutes and all this?
Right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tom. Anything? Mr. Cheney's?
Thank you. And through the chair, over the last few weeks, we've been talking about merging the IT of the Board of Ed
Yeah.
with the IT here in the city. Would this new plan impede that process or
Impede it?
speed it up, or how would that work?
Yeah.
Because their system's different than this system.
It is. It is. They use an HTE for educational purposes, or SunGuard for HTE purposes. And that was one of the things that we asked our vendor to say, is it compatible, or can we interface with their system so that they can feed information to us as need be, to eliminate that paper flow and to be able to make purchases together so that the front end looks like there's one system, although there's a couple systems going on in the back end. Because what we want to be able to do is make purchases as and make that concept for all of our authorities, commissions, everybody. That's the whole idea behind this, and to hopefully open it up to a regional consortium. But we need to be able to have those interfaces, easily set up. So to answer your question on finding what we're going to find with the Board of Ed is we're going to find process efficiencies. How can we merge processes? I think given the size of their staff and given the size of our staff, you're not gonna be able to, combine the two and, say eliminate half the staff. It's just not gonna happen because their systems are so different than ours, and the support, the kind of skill set that's required to support their kind of systems are gonna be different. And you're gonna have, but you're gonna have certain common processes that we can say, all right, and this is the next step we're gonna look at. What are the common processes? Where can we eliminate that duplication? And we're doing that, once we can connect these systems together, we're gonna do that on the finance function, purchase function, the IT, of course, but all these functions that we can say, HR as well, that we say, how can we work well together? The staffs are very small on both sides. And if there's an opportunity, what happens is when attrition occurs, then you reevaluate your positions, as we've been doing all along. We've been doing that for years. But you can't keep just shoveling the stuff over to somebody else. You need to give them better tools now to work.
And a follow-up on a different subject, thanks for answering that. Implementation, at what point do we stop using the old system and go with this system?
It's all going to be different because of the phase-in on these different systems. We'll probably start right out of the gate with the NeoGov because there's an immediate need for the police and fire applications. So we'll start with that. And then we'll probably start with the telestaff because, quite frankly, I want to see some savings from the scheduling, how that's going to play out. The sooner we can start some of these things, the better. But they all have to, be coordinated well together. We're not going to put the cart before the horse on these kind of things. We're going to have to coordinate them on their schedule and our schedule, our work schedule. Because, for example, we can't start anything to do with purchasing during July and August because that's our busiest time for purchasing. Chip and his office just are not available to work on any kind of implementation project. It's just not going to happen. So we have to coordinate with our own internal folks as well.
But you're going to run a dual system before you actually,
I couldn't hear you.
a dual system, we run the old and new
Yes.
system.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Anything else? Any questions?
Let me just clarify something, Mr. Chair. So this system, as it stands now, doesn't include the board app.
No. They're on a separate system. The idea is to create a system that's flexible enough to accept the interface with that.
Can this do that?
The new system?
Yeah.
We're gonna allow the ability to do that. Are we putting that right in the interface with them? We're gonna look at their system to try to tie into their financial system. We haven't looked at all their functions to see specifically where we should tie in, but that's part of the criteria is to have a system that's flexible enough to allow for those other agencies so we can, act as one. That's the whole concept behind the CRM system for us. So the short answer is it will. That's our end goal. Now, that means on the other side, they need to be receptive. And I spoke to Sal this morning, they are receptive. And as long as we maintain that sense of confidentiality and security on both sides, that'll be okay. So it's only, we have to be careful on what information is being shared. That's the key.
Any other questions? Any other? Okay.
Pretty exciting project. I mean, it really is. And it's going to change the whole dynamics of how the delivery of services occurs in the city. And and how people interact and how you guys interact
Sounds
with
like
work.
Looking forward to paying taxes online, water, sewer bill,
Yeah.
all being able to do that
Basically,
online.
within a year, it's gonna
I
be.
mean, the Bernicious, I know that's kind of a small one here.
The whole thing.
But that's a tool for minutes.
Using that same time.
It's how it's organized, it's a standardization for how it's all done. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to eliminate a minute taker. It just means that the number of, the amount of time it takes to do the minutes may be reduced, but you'll have a standardization to do it, you know? The biggest trouble, or not trouble, it's problematic to find consistency in the minutes and find a minute taker sometimes. And all the minutes should be done, should have minutes, or all the meetings should have minutes. And so, you know, maybe you'll automate the rooms where those meetings occur and just.
Planning and zoning takes minutes a different way than the council does, and advisory I see, and it's all different.
You put it on the, you know, the portal.
And go step by step, what's going to be done in phases.
Sure. What type of hardware does this include? Talked a lot about software, I didn't
Yep.
know anything about hardware.
Yeah, the hardware, I'm gonna have Shane, let her talk to that because that's.
It's part of actually the number of 600,000. If you look at that, there's now you're talking specifically vendors, or you're talking specifically
Type of hardware, like the server downstairs.
Yeah, no, there'll be server, between server, switches, data redundancy in regards of backup systems between here and police and back and forth.
What we hope to, the other thing that's included in here is, we want to virtualize the desktops. Right now, whenever there's a change required at their desktops, you know, one of our staff members have to go out to the desktop and make that change instead of, you know, doing it right from the basement, you know, or their office. It's cooler down there. You gotta appreciate that. But, you know, we should be able to make that change right from there. Now, if we do that, we don't have to replace these things every so often. And you can, you know, right now, there's a replacement schedule of whatever, every 3 or 4 years. All you're gonna need ultimately is your monitor and your mouse and your keyboard, and, you know, that's where everything's going.
Yeah, currently now, it's a very manual process. The technician has to dedicate hours just to finalize a workstation, or even to troubleshoot it. With a system like this, just a couple of minutes, you'll have let's call it a refresh.
Profile.
Yeah,
Profile
a refresh
of
of your
user.
profile. Not only that, you'll be able to be portable. Any devices, BlackBerry, iPads, these tablets are coming out in the market. No matter what type of OS or brand, you'll be able to see that and be in a live session almost from your desktop too. You have that same experience.
Our
It's all about
servers are,
mobility and portability. That's
Yeah.
our
sorry.
servers are currently all virtualized, which means that we have minimal hardware for them to run on.
Now, although, you know, many of these systems, we do have some systems that are going to be housed, you know, locally, but we still need to have, you know, backup and disaster recovery, and that's what some of that hardware is for as well.
Mr. Rattell?
Yeah, are you still, if you do this, if you virtualize a desktop, do we still need to buy licenses, Microsoft licenses for every seat, or are we gonna be saving
Well,
some money there
We're
too?
going to reduce that by Google. You know, we're going to be going to Google in a couple weeks. We've already.
Within the month.
Within a month, okay. So
Yeah,
that's
but
going
I'm
to
talking about-
eliminate that
Yeah, I'm
tremendously.
talking about the operating system, not,
Yeah.
Well,
not
yes.
Office.
You'll
Yes.
still need the license.
So that you're gonna be
But it's a
running
lower
Windows.
cost.
Yeah.
The
Instead
desktops are
of a
running Windows.
full-blown
Okay.
desktop, you need a
It
just
would be a good opportunity to migrate off of Windows and do something open source that's
The
less
way it
money.
We
works-
are, we
The
are
way it
looking
works.
actually into that.
You are looking at that?
Yeah.
The
Would
way
this
it-
be compatible with another operating system?
Absolutely.
Well, maybe we should think about that too.
Well, the way it works is it'll look at your maximum number of users at any time during the day. You know, so let's say at one time, you know, you peak out at 100 users, and, you know, it'll look at your history and peak out, so then you'll have to buy 100 licenses. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's,
Yeah.
so it looks at the history, you know, it'll look at that centralized point, look at the history and say, all right, 100 users. So instead of having to buy, you know, a Microsoft Office for every desktop that we have in the city, which is quite a few, what, 580?
At least.
Whatever. Now you're down to, you know, just the number of users that are on at the peak
yeah.
time. I mean, that's what streamlining and this whole thing is all about.
Thanks.
There you go. Thank you. Thanks, sir.
I'm ready to make a motion to recommend the adoption of the resolution engaging in necessary constituent relationship management system and enterprise resource planning vendors, products, and services as described, together with lease and/or purchase financing through Bank of America for up to $2.5 million, and also to authorize waiver of bid or qualification for those entities attached to the resolution and/or those that utilize government or consortium pre-qualification. In all other cases, vendors are to be qualified pursuant to standard city requirements.
You obviously read the resolution. Okay, we have a motion.
This is
on the floor. Perkins?
I just want to make a comment before I.
Well, actually, if you want to second it, you can do that. If not, then I'll second it for purposes of discussion, and then you can make a comment. So I'll second the motion.
All right, thanks.
Under discussion for the chair people, or for the committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't doubt that we need this system. I don't dispute that one bit. I just, it's a lot of money, and we just got through approving a bunch of money the other night. I'm not really sure if the taxpayers can afford this or whether or not we need it as urgently as we say we do. So for now, I'm just going to hold off on my vote in the affirmative until I get more information about this.
The only comment I have to say is that when I look at the spreadsheet here in the back that was provided to us, you're looking at similar dollar amounts over the cost of 5 years. You're looking at 3.05979, and then you're looking at 3.7 million dollars. So it's not that much, and depending on what the savings is for man-hour work, plus the cost of buying the newer programs that we need to work with Judy Edwards. It seems like we're spending the same amount of money, maybe, hopefully on the other side less, because of the savings that we don't know what they actually are going to be, you know, depending on how many desktops we take out of the play and what the costs are for server and peak hours. And I think it's a good thing. So
I could provide a revised sheet if you wish, you know, those numbers that we discussed here.
thank you. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Please let the record vote Mr. Perkins is in the negative. And
Thank you.
seeing that there is no further business that may properly come before this committee, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Perkins, seconded by Mrs. Teichholz. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. I know it's warm in here. Janie, thank you.